Alright, we are back with the new episode of Road to Iceland on the channel Discovering Two Wheels. My name is ICELAND, and then I say let's crack on. Yeah, so we're having a little bit of a behind the scene thing here. Cycling was a disaster this week. We went to do Box Hill and it did a number on my bike. I think my rear derailleur just got messed up. Yeah, I think I was in the wrong gear. I was pushing hard up on the hill. I heard the snapping noise and then the chain jumped off, and then after that the shifting wasn't the same anymore. So yeah, the bicycle ended up in the repair shop on Wednesday and I still didn't get back. Today is Sunday. I meant to do cycling today again, 100 kilometers. That obviously is not gonna happen, and to be frank, if the bike is not ready by Monday evening, next Tuesday training is in trouble as well. But I think I'm just gonna borrow a bike from somebody because I don't want to miss out so many sessions. Instead, today I'm going to run, which I haven't done in a couple of months. And so once I'm finished here, I'm just gonna pack my stuff, get home, and then go out for a run. So I'm just gonna try to do that 12-kilometer run, which I normally do. And then we see how it goes. I don't have my hopes high because I haven't run in a couple of weeks, months actually. And I already prepping myself for the pain because that is gonna be painful. But good weather, nice and warm, so there's no reason to stay inside, at least not during the daytime. Now this next thing is not necessarily training related, it's more traffic, cycling related, but more trafficy. And I just want to know, what the heck is wrong with these guys driving smart cars and Fiat 500s, flexing like Ronnie Coleman, riding like madmen? I'm pretty sure that my bicycle have more style on a crash test than a Fiat 500. Also, these dudes are not driving Escalades or Lamborghinis. These are matchboxes that sounds like angry beehives. So I don't see the point of flexing. Just chill out. Drive casually, drive normally. Okay, first ride of the week. Today we're gonna do 110 kilometers, something like that. Box Hill and back, real quick. I mean, as quick as we can. It's gonna be rainy again, I believe. It's not like I complain too much about the weather, but hey, there is winter and it's England, so it is what it is. But I got the mud guard finally, so hopefully no more mud bath. And yeah, we're not gonna waste too much time because we need to be efficient today with the time to get the least wet. So I'm out. Ciao. Having a little stop just for a couple of seconds because I seen from the corner of my eye that I'm passing this view and I wasn't gonna miss it. It is amazing. This is the top of the Box Hill. So I mean, look at that. Doesn't get any better than that. I'm actually not even gonna waste too much time. Go back on the bike and then just keep going, because from here there is one more hill to climb and then it's gonna be easy on the way back. I'm just gonna be rolling into the city.
I did run out of time, faced with no advice to get her back in line. I struggled to suffice, weighed down by all your pride. Had to break my stride and get back on my feet, with nothing left to ensure. We can
So today we're just going to briefly talk about how to program a lower body strength session. So we're going to have a look at different elements of programming, which you need to keep in mind before you put together a program for yourself or for somebody else. And those are assessment, goal setting, exercise library, thinking about what exercises you're going to be using in your programming. I will be also providing 2 workout routine examples, one for a beginner level, one for a more advanced level person or athlete. I will be explaining how many sets and repetitions we do, what intensity we're using, and why we are doing so. Now, first of all, let's crack on with the assessment. Assessment is important because you want to know if you have any injuries, any illnesses, so that's your health assessment. And then you also want to assess where is your strength and your fitness level at the moment. So the one thing we normally use is the 1 repetition maximum lifts. And then I like to use 3 different exercises. One of them is the squat or one of the squat variations, either back or front squat. Then deadlift, just the traditional deadlift will be absolutely fine. And then a single leg exercise, I like to use some variation of a single leg squat. And let me just give you a couple of tips regarding your 1 rep max testing. I know that this is about maximum strength, so you want to lift as heavy as possible, but you're going to have to leave your ego behind you. So when you do those lifts, the only repetition which actually count is the ones which you did perfect form. So when you do your squat 1 rep max and you look like you just came out from a car accident, that rep doesn't count. Okay, it needs to be looking pretty and it needs to be performed with good posture. And the same applies to the deadlift as well. If you do your deadlift and you look like the Hunchback of Notre Dame, yeah, just dial back a little bit. And that applies to every single 1 rep max test what you do. You're gonna have to make sure that your form is pristine, because that is gonna give you a realistic number, and this is what you wanna work with. We also want to test mobility and flexibility because that will help us to choose the right exercises. We're not going to choose something which we are not capable of doing just because we have limited range of motion. And also it helps us to figure out if we have to address any mobility or flexibility issue so we can act upon that. After completing the assessment, we will have an idea how to work around injuries, what exercises we can or cannot do because of our flexibility and mobility, and we will also have a firm idea what is our strength at the moment because we will have the 1 rep max completed, so we will know exactly what is our maximum lift on squat, deadlift, and then on a single leg exercise. Once we have all this established, we can move on to the goal setting. Goal setting is important because this is the phase when we create targets, what we want to achieve with our training. With goal setting, we use a protocol which is called the SMART protocol, and it's an acronym which stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time frame. Specific means that we have an exact target to work towards. So for example, if I say that I want to get strong itself, it's not enough because it's not specific enough. If I say that I want to increase my back squat with 10 kilograms in the next 12 weeks, that immediately becomes specifics because we're working with numbers, weights, specific exercise and time frame as well. Now measurable means that I have to be able to measure in some way, so it needs to be objective. Measurable means that I'm using some type of measurements in order to assess if my performance is improving or not. Think about time, distance, weight or speed. Achievable means that you have to be able to reach your target, so try to be realistic with your goal setting. This way you can avoid continuous failure or disappointment. Relevant in goal setting means that your targets needs to be in line with your main mission. So for example, if your goal is to compete in the Olympic Games in 100-meter sprint, it doesn't really make sense for you to work towards improving your 1 rep max on clean and jerk, because that ultimately not gonna contribute to your performance. You need to work on your speed, lower body strength, agility, so on and so on, in order to improve your speed so you can run faster. In goal setting time frame, the approach is crucial because that brings accountability with it. When we don't have a deadline, we have the tendency to skip things or delay them, and that's just human nature, but it will ultimately cost and it will result in jeopardizing your process of achieving your goals. Once we're done with the goal setting, we can start working out the plan, and then we can have a look at the exercise selection. When it comes to lower body strength, the protocol that I normally use, which I talked about in earlier videos, helps me to select the correct exercises for the person based on the assessment and the goal setting and so on and so on. So based on the protocol, I need to have a couple of exercises in my workout plan, and that's going to be knee flexion, bilateral and unilateral as well, meaning that you're using both legs or just a single leg approach. Then you're gonna have to have a hip hinge movement, usually some sort of a deadlift. Then we need to look for some complementary movement. I like to use lunge variations and other exercises in the complementary section. The fourth one would be corrective and accessory work, and this is the phase where you can address specific weaknesses in the lower body. And now let me explain to you these example training plans I just created so you can have an idea how a lower body strength session should look like. Now, for somebody who is just at the beginning of their lifting career, I would recommend to keep it simple. Back squat is a pretty basic exercise, it's relatively simple to learn and it's also very functional. I didn't specify in this training plans the warm-up and the mobility section, but you're still gonna have to do that. I try to focus only on the strength movements. So the first exercise you're gonna do is back squat, right? And with the back squat, I'm gonna go on the first one for 6 sets because the first 2 sets, we're gonna use it as your warm-up. Even though that you did all the warm-up and the mobility, we still want to spend a couple of minutes in the beginning of the session with these specific movements to get the nervous system firing, get the muscles firing. So that's why I like to add an extra 2 sets before we start actually with the heavier lifting. Now in these 2 sets, you're going to perform anywhere between 12 to 15 reps and you would use about 50 to 60% of your 1 rep maximum. Now these numbers are not set in stone, these are guidelines, so feel free to change according to your level. Now once you completed the 2 sets, I want you to move on to do another 4 sets of back squat, and here you're going to start dropping your numbers. You're going to start working between 8 to 12 repetitions, but we're going to crank up the intensity to 70-80% of your 1 rep maximum. Resting in between these sets should be between 1 to 5 minutes. It depends on the person. I would say the general 1 to 2 minutes will do the trick, but if you feel a little bit more exhausted, feel free to extend your rest period. Now once you finish with your squat, you're going to move on to your deadlift. You're going to perform 4 sets, 8 to 12 repetitions again at 70 to 80% of your 1 rep maximum of your deadlift. You will see that in this example training plan, I use a lot of 70 to 80% of intensity. This is because we're talking about somebody who is brand new or relatively new to weightlifting. So for injury prevention purposes, we're not using 90 to 95% because it just doesn't make sense. You need to gradually prep your body, and this is why we use 70 to 80% tops. After the deadlift, I selected reverse lunges because for a beginner person, reverse lunge is probably the easiest lunge variation there is. And what you're going to do is you take 25 to 30% of your squat 1 rep max, and this is what you're going to use. You perform 3 sets, 8 to 10 repetitions on each leg. In the training plan, you can see that I use dash for the set numbers, so 1-3. It doesn't mean that you do 1 to 3 sets. It means that you do 3 sets, and set 1, 2, and 3, all of them happening for 8 to 12 reps at 25 to 30% intensity. After the reverse lunges, we're going to move on to another single leg exercise, which is going to target the hip, and that's going to be single leg glute bridges. Now when you do your single leg glute bridges, again I need 3 sets. You're going to work with only your body weight and you perform 8 to 10 repetitions on each side. Now if that feels a little bit too easy, feel free to stack up some weight on your hip and then just keep moving that way. After the single leg glute bridges, we're going to move on to do calf raises, and for the calf raises, you can use a weight up to 25 to 50% of your body weight as an additional resistance, and then you need to do 12 to 15 repetitions for 4 sets. Again, you can see that the number of the repetitions are quite high, but the intensity is relatively low. This is going to shift as you progress from week 1 to week 4. Your numbers on the repetitions are going to come down, and then your intensity is going to go up. And then the last exercise in this example workout routine is skater hold, which is going to help you to work on your balancing. Again, this is a unilateral leg exercise which requires a little bit of a core strength and some coordination skills. That's why I like to implement it into my workout and for other people's as well. You're going to perform 3 sets, 30 to 60 seconds or even longer. Again, if it feels a little bit too easy or not challenging enough for you, feel free to grab some weight and make it a little bit harder for you. Now we're going to move on to the more advanced version of this workout routine, and then you can see that the squat and the deadlift are going to be the same exercises, but we're going to change the number of repetitions and the intensity. With the squat again, we're gonna perform 2 lighter sets and then we move on to the 4 heavier sets. The 2 lighter sets is gonna be for 8 to 12 repetition at about 70 to 80% of your 1 rep max. And then for the heavier sets, you're gonna move down to 2 to 6 repetitions, but the intensity is gonna grow to 85 to 95% of your 1 rep max. On the deadlift, we're gonna perform 4 heavy sets and then your repetitions are gonna be between 4 to 6 for each set, and the intensity is gonna be 85 to 90%. Again, this is week 1 example training plan. Week 4, this is gonna go up towards 2 to 3 repetition, 100 or maybe 102% intensity, depending on how the person responds to the previous week's trainings. So your forward lunges will be your complementary exercise here. We're going to perform 3 sets, 8 to 10 repetitions on each side, and then your intensity is going to go up to 50% of your 1 rep max on squat. After the forward lunges, we're going to move on to explosive side lunges. This is going to be a lot more powerful movement, so therefore we're going to come down a little bit with the intensity. We're going to keep it around 30% of your 1 rep maximum. We perform 3 sets, 8 to 10 repetitions on each side. Once we are finished with the lunges, we're going to move on to do some calf raises, and the calf raise is going to happen for 4 sets as well. We keep the numbers here quite high, 12 to 15 repetitions, and then we're going to increase the intensity. You're going to be using 50% or more of your body weight as an additional resistance. And as a finisher exercise, I chose the weighted horses, which you're going to perform for 3 sets, 30 to 60 seconds on each set. In case you want to save some time or just crank up the intensity a little bit, you can take the last 2 exercises, the calf raises and the wall sit, and then perform them as a superset, meaning that you do your calf raises and then without rest, you immediately move on to the wall sit, and then you can rest a little bit. Once you're done with that, you repeat that for another 2 sets, and that is just gonna make it a little bit more difficult. Alright, so now that all this is explained, let's have a look at some of the exercises. I created a small demonstration again just for you to see how to do some of the exercises, just in case if you're not familiar with the names. So next we're going to go through all the exercises which I talked about in the lower body strength workout for the beginner level, and I just demonstrate each of these exercises just in case if you don't know how to do them. And I'm going to start with the squat. So we're going to do back squat. Make sure that the bar is sitting on your traps, and then you're just gonna squat down nice and low. Make sure that the toes are pointing out. Your knees must be tracking your toes. You keep your core tight. The abdominal compression has to be there all the time. Exhale on the top. Next one is gonna be a deadlift. And then for that you're going to set up your feet shoulder width apart, and then keep the bar really close to your shin, hands outside of your knees. When you set up your deadlift, make sure that your hips are over the knees and your shoulders are over your hips. You're going to keep your back nice and flat, and then from here, drive the glute forward. When performing your deadlifts, always think about the hip moving horizontally, not vertically. Also, when you lower the bar, I keep telling to my clients that imagine you're going to the toilet at night and then there is no light, and then you just try to find the toilet sitting down. So this is what you need to imagine, and that's going to help you to keep the hip moving rather backwards than downwards. So you're going to keep the tension on your glutes and your hammies. Okay, the next one is going to be reverse lunges. Again, the bar or whatever equipment you use will do the trick. If the bar is your chosen weapon, then you're going to put it behind your neck, again sitting on the traps. You step back, and then you try to go all the way down to the floor. Just a gentle tap with the kneecap. You don't want to be slapping your knees on the floor. Just a quick tap, figure out where is the ground, and then stand up. When you stand up, lead with the chest. Make sure that it's coming up nice and tall, and the power comes through your quads and your glutes. The next exercise will be calf raises. So again, if you're working with the bar, it's going to come behind your neck. And then for this exercise, you can use elevation. I'm going to demonstrate just on the floor for today. But you're going to raise your heels, drive up using your calf muscles, freeze on the top for half a second, and then come down in a slow, controlled fashion. So you want to have all the weight placed to the sock ball of your feet, not on the toes, on the sock ball. And then just extend, and then slowly lower. Extend, and then slowly lower. If you pause on the top, it's going to start challenging your balance as well a little bit. The next exercise is going to be for a beginner level. Either glute bridges or single leg glute bridges. I'm going to demonstrate the single leg. So you start lying on your back, and then try to keep your thighs parallel to each other. And then from here, place your hands on the floor and drive your glutes up. So driving the hip up, lock in, and then lower it. You want to make sure that your pelvis is tucked under, so you crunch in your abdominal muscles, and then raise. So this is going to limit your range a little bit, but it also protects your back and shifts all the focus to your glutes. If you struggle with the single legs, you can move back to double-legged version. If you want to make that a little bit more difficult, you can place some weight on your hips. And the last exercise is going to be a balancing single leg exercise again. What we're going to do is we pick up a skater hold. So this is technically a single leg deadlift held in the bottom position. When you look at my body, you should see a straight line running from my ear all the way down to my ankle. Calves, quads, glutes all engaged. My core nice and tight, including my lower back. And I like to place my hands behind myself. And this leg here, the floating one, is engaged as well. So it's not floppy, not like a wet towel. You want to have it nice and engaged, firm. And then you hold this position anywhere between 30 to 60 seconds, and then you're going to swap to the other side. And now we're going to move on to the advanced exercises. So these are the exercises I would put in for, let's say, the first 4 weeks. For somebody who is a little bit more advanced, have some history of lifting. So the squat and the deadlift is going to be exactly the same, so there is no need to demonstrate this one more time. But the reverse lunge is going to be swapped to a forward lunge, because that's a more advanced variation of the lunge. And then again, bar goes behind your back, sitting on the traps, and then step forward, push back. Now when you push back, try to be explosive. Make sure that your knee doesn't buckle. So this is something you don't want to see, especially when you're standing up. Push the knee out and then back. Yeah. Down and then back. You try to be explosive as you're standing up and controlled on the way down. So again, you're not slamming that kneecap on the ground, but you control the movement. You don't want to lean forward. You want to keep your chest nice and upright. The next exercise is going to be explosive side lunges, so I strip the bar a little bit, because you want to make sure that you get the movement right, first with lighter weight, and then you can progress to heavier weight. The movement, as the name suggests, needs to be explosive. So what we do is we step out to the side, and then from here, in an explosive movement, we shoot back into the middle. I like to challenge more advanced people to stand on one leg instead of putting the foot down. So from here, stop, and then explosive. Out to the side, stop it, take a deep breath, brace your core, push back. Push back. So you make sure that you load your quads, your glutes, and then you want to make sure that your hip moves back and down slightly. So if you look at it from the side, my hip travels back and down, and then from here I shoot out and then step out again. Stepping out from this position helps you to improve your deceleration skills as well, so that's just an added bonus to it. And the last exercise in the advanced group is going to be a wall sit with some added weight to it. So you're going to pick up a 90 degree on the knee, 90 degree on the hip. And I like to have the hands on the chest, and then you just hold it here anywhere between 30 to 60 seconds. It's gonna feel quite easy in the first couple of seconds, but believe me, it's gonna build up. And then the stingy, burning feeling will come in real quick. You just want to make sure that your core is nice and tight, and also just try to keep your shoulder blade up against the wall. So from the side, I shouldn't have space in between the wall and my lower back. What it will do is make you push harder into the wall with your legs, so you're gonna get more engagement. So this is just a couple of exercises I picked for this example plan. What I would normally do is after 4 to 8 weeks or whatsoever, I would change the exercises. So for example, instead of the back squat, I go into a front squat. Explosive side lunges will change for forward to reverse lunge, something which similar in nature but slightly different, so you engage different muscles as well, and then you work differently on the body. And as usual, if you have any questions regarding the training, the exercise or the methods I'm using with my training or with my clients' training, please feel free to get in touch. You can visit my website. I've included the link to my website in the description below, so just click on the link and hit me up. And now let's have a look at the Crapometer. Let's see how many kilometers I put into the bike so far. We went on Tuesday to Box Hill to train, and yeah, Box Hill did a number on my rear gear shifter. So the bike is, as I mentioned earlier, in the repair shop at the moment. So I'm waiting for it to be ready. So next week I can go back and carry on with the training. So regarding the Crapometer, I have 2116 meters in the bike, and as I mentioned it's in the repair shop because Box Hill did a number on my rear derailleur, and I asked them to do actually a full service on the bike because I had a little bit of issues here and there, like the brakes weren't working properly, and then when I was pulling on the front brake, then the fork was shaking really badly. So I just asked them to fix the brakes and then tighten up all the screws and everything, and then just fix the back as well. So hopefully I'm gonna get the bike back soon. And this is all what we got for you this week. Thanks very much for tuning in. I hopefully enjoyed this episode, and then we're gonna be back with a new one next week. Hopefully I will be able to hit the 200 kilometer target, but it looks really good for next week, so it looks like we're gonna have a blast. If you'd like to follow our progress, please feel free to subscribe to our social media platforms. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Strava and Komoot. All of these links are included in the description below. I also include my website in the description, so feel free to get in touch in case you want to know more about training or you have any questions. I will try to get back to you as soon as I can. And if you're already on my website, don't forget to sign up for my fortnightly newsletter. It is absolutely free and it's just a bunch of nice articles about fitness and health. If you like this video, don't forget to share, like, comment. In the meantime, take care and I will see you next week. Ciao!